A New Hope, Nier Chapter 73. You can read all of Azazyl's fan-fiction stories by subscribing to patreon.com/Azazyel. All too soon my group of androids along with me reached Beacon, and rather than grabbing my team I decided that meeting Ozpin was imperative so that I could get my multidimensional android army going. Granted, such an army of android waifus, and honestly feminine boys, were pretty far into the future, but a man could dream. Ah, so these are the off-branded schnees Miss Goodwitch was raving about during the staff meeting, Ozpin muttered as he inspected the forms of A29S and E6, with the other androids not having said schnee-toned hair receiving less of the immortal's attention. So, Mr. Barris, I don't believe I need to remind you that despite Beacon being a private learning facility, it also doubles as a sort of military base. So why have you brought these ladies with you when they are not authorized to be here? Knowing how Ozpin was frankly a bit of a schemer by nature of being an immortal, I decided to just lay the cards on the table, as it were. By being blunt, it wouldn't leave him much room to finagle around me, nor could he exploit me as much while having the knowledge that I can potentially bring an entire army of huntsman-grade soldiers to bear, to say nothing of should I say fuck it and accept the machine army's offer of partnership. If I accepted the machine army, I would easily be able to take over Remnant and then move on to another universe and so on, but such a life didn't really interest me very much, as I was happy with my androids, and I found the greatest joy in exploring these new worlds. A2, pull back your skin on your hand, I requested, and the twins helped A2 painlessly pull back the synthetic skin of her arm to show the mechanics within, making the immortal headmaster's eyes rise in surprise. Well, that's rather intriguing. Are you an escaped Atlas super android like that penny model Ironwood has been raving about? He half pondered and asked. I shook my head and then called upon a small flame in one hand and almost pinched my fingers in the other hand. I am afraid not. They are androids, but not of this world. I am a scout for the forces of Yoarha Multidimensional Survey Corps. We have found your world of Remnant to be filled with interesting materials and wish to create a base and embassy in the lands of the Everfall Forest in order to begin trade between our worlds. I explained seriously, making the immortal gap at me. That is something rather original. Do you have any proof of your claims? He asked tentatively. I nodded as I looked behind me at my androids. Yes, we have a data slate from our world with some bits of details of our services, and more importantly, I can physically take you to another world in which the moon hadn't been shattered for proof. I offered that transporting him would only take a couple of minutes at most, and his seeing the military base Yoarha created wouldn't harm me at all. If anything, seeing the massive railguns and other super weapons made to kill the large fauna spreading through the world and the machine army would only convince him of our power. So long as he didn't learn the whole humans had died out on our world bit, then it would be fine. But not too unexpectedly, Ozpin shook his head, not wanting to leave the world and be placed in someone else's seat of power, before he froze as a thought seemingly consumed him mentally. Before I agree to any form of partnership with your Yoarha group, I have a hypothetical question. He then took a deep sip out of his coffee before he stoically placed said mug on his large desk. Would you be able to take someone to another dimension or world and just leave them there with no way to return to this world? He asked, and I realized what he wanted. He wanted me to deal with Salem. Which was my plan to begin with, so no skin off my back. Hypothetically, if that person didn't have their own dimensional traveling abilities as well as tethers to this world so they could find their way back through the spatial distortions between worlds, then yes, should I or another agent of Yoarha just dump someone in another world, they will be stuck there forever, I explained. Ozpin folded his hands in front of his face in a Gendo pose for a couple of minutes as he deeply thought about what he needed to do for me to do such a thing. What exactly do you need from me? He asked eventually. I then turned to 6-0, who was an operations unit and thus would know exactly what we needed in order to get set up. 6-0 then went on to list a number of materials we would need, as well as some more machines that found that could work to restore the 3D printers we brought, but with the software being fried out of them they would be a much larger pain to use. I can acquire these machines you desire from Atlas, but I will need to see proof of your group's power. He started off before I swiped my hand off to the side. No, Yoarha is not a mercenary force you can point at your enemies. I came here to Vale for its central location and ease of getting resources. If necessary, I can always go to Vacuo and establish order there with the rich resources of the desert, I said, making the headmaster's face twitch at me, cutting him off. Look, I came to this world with good intentions, and I will see those intentions through as I use the resources of this world unclaimed by others in making my forces stronger by helping the natives. So, either you can get with the program, or I can leave and establish a power base elsewhere. I said, and I realized I went a bit far as Ozpin gripped his cane hard till the metal creaked before he smiled and relaxed. Honestly, if you can do what I asked previously, about performing some dimensional human trafficking, then you can have Vale for all I care, haha. He burst out laughing as he stood up. He then stuck his hand out in a handshake as he spoke. I will get those machines for free, but if I don't see progress soon then we will have problems, as calling in such a favor with Atlas will have issues. I nodded and shook his hand, firmly agreeing to his deal. Wanting to get proof of return on an investment was nothing new, and I knew damned well that I was asking for the sky in all this, but Ozpin simply put was a tired old man who wanted to die or at least live in peace, and if I could be the silver bullet that can bring him his peace, then he would have no issue giving me a nation to do so. So, what will happen with your androids? He asked tentatively, as though he was unsure how to identify them. With the vital festive months away, you still have a bunch of free student dorms for visiting students, right? Just give me the code for one of them so they can have somewhere to stay while you get the machines we need. Then they will be out of your hair, and you will see the Everfall forest taken from the Grim within a couple of weeks at most. I said confidently.